everybody. It's just us.
Just us. Just me and you.
Just the two.
Best friends. Best friends.
Remember that song? Was that Will Smith? You know, it's more my department than yours.
Yeah. I messed up the identifying the artist for the track on the last episode. That was, after we shut it down, I looked it up. I was pretty embarrassed about it. So.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way that was Hall & Oates.
Yeah, Hall & Oates. No, Frankie Valli.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
Jersey
so
boys.
I'm not taking shots anymore. I'm not even gonna try. I'll be like, I don't know who that is. No clue. So that's how it is.
I think it was Christina Aguilera.
I think it was Puff Daddy.
Man, what's up, man?
Oh man, it's been it's been a couple weeks. We were talking about this on the pre-show. It's been a couple weeks. It's been a minute. Lots of stuff
it's been
going on. So.
A weird 2 weeks to have missed.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
we let a lot of news gather up.
We did, yeah. And it's funny. This is actually like one of the rare times where you and I have like done really smart planning, because like 4 weeks ago we were laying out all these interviews and we said, you know what? There's like 4 or 5 interviews like back to back here. Maybe we should just slot in a space for me and you to catch up and do the news. Okay, that sounds smart. And we just kind of like didn't think about it. And then here we are and like, well, yeah, we really needed this.
I figured it would be after Space Symposium. There would be like anything interesting, but it turns out everyone just wanted to tell us they're working on their factories and they're signing agreements or something. Like there was not anything.
So, yeah.
Instead, what we got? Jared Isaacman, budget
got a confirmation
mayhem.
Hearing. We got an absolute bugbear of a budget request.
Apocalyptic situation there.
Yeah. We gotta dig up all the Planetary Society language, and that's pretty appropriate for what it is.
Let's do it. What are you drinking over there?
Apocalyptic. Well, I'm working through the mead.
Oh, the mead, yeah.
I wasn't actually planning on having it again. It's like 3 episodes in a row or whatever it was, but I just forgot to go get anything else, so it's the only thing I have in the house. So here I am.
How much what was your initial run?
This batch was about 22 of these bottles. So
wow.
Yeah.
So we've got 18 weeks left or what?
No, I've had some of it already, and I'm probably going to give some of it away. So at the rate that I'm making it, like I haven't been able to drink any until now. And so like I haven't had a good sense for how much I'm making, but now it's like, now I'm drinking it and it's really, I'm like, shit, this is a lot of mead. Like I'm going to have to, and I have a whole production chain. Like, there's, if it takes 5 months to make a batch, that I've got like 5 or 6 going at any time, and they're kind of rolling in. Right. And so now I'm looking at my closet and there's all these batches that are in various states. And I'm like, this is all going to hit me pretty hard. And I got to void some of this mead. So I'm like calling up friends.
You got to have a block party.
Then they'll give a bottle of that guy. Yeah, I had a contract over here. I have a bottle of mead. Like it's going to be like that kind of situation.
You're like bartering for supplies at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to the store. Can I pay in mead?
Yeah, I need someone to come dig a hole in my yard. I pay in mead. Yeah.
So good.
So anyway,
I just have red wine. I have a Merlot that I'm working through over here.
All right. Okay.
I'm going to hit this button where it adds someone's comment to the stream. I'm pretty sure this is going to put it at font size 72 point, but no, now it's super tiny because it's a long message. All right, let's read it. Yeah. I feel like commenting too deeply on the budget is a waste of time, given the budget requests are never particularly reflective of what Congress does. You may think, but I'm adding it back. I actually do think there's some good stuff to dig into. Let's save that, though. Let's talk about Jared Isaacman first, Jake. Did you watch the confirmation hearing, or did you just...
I did, yeah.
Okay.
No, I watched it, yeah.
What was your primary takeaway?
So, the first thing I noticed, because I hadn't watched a full proper confirmation hearing in a long time. Like I don't think I watched Nelson's, so I'm thinking back. It might have been like the Bryan Singh one was the last time I watched. I totally forgot how rehearsed these are, and not just like not like Isaacman had prepared answers, but like the senators and Isaacman had prepared back and forth. Like that was very. I've totally forgotten that was a thing that happened. So I'm just like. Yeah. These jokes are really lame, and they're just like totally awkwardly teed up, and like I don't know. Okay, so that was a little weird first, but yeah, that's they random comment.
Okay, that's fair. There's the senators being buddy to each other, and then desperately trying to get the nominees to visit their state so that they can be on the photo shoot with the guy who does the thing, right? Yeah, come fishing in Alaska. You do the whole thing. Yeah.
The worst was the worst ones. I forget who would do it, but like they probably all did it. But it's like the senator would be like, "I'm going to ask you this question, and I really liked the answer you gave to me when we already talked about this in my office, and we figured all this out. But I want to say it again out loud so that you can say it again out loud, and we all know what happened." Which like in one way is totally fine. Like getting things on the
we know that's the point.
That's an important thing that a democracy does, but it's also just like very awkward when you think we've already said this, but I want you to say it again now that everybody's watching you.
Also, none of them, all those meetings, right? Jared was on this road show in DC for, I don't know, 2 weeks or whatever. All these meetings, and everyone still thinks his name is Isaacson.
Yeah,
no, they couldn't stop. They could not stop saying Isaacson. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, poor guy.
That was driving me nuts. And then you know what? One of the funniest things I picked up on was that. So he had his Polaris crew there with him, and they had the Artemis crew there with him.
Yeah.
And wait, so who was all in the room? It was both Polaris crews, right? Or no, it was just Polaris Dawn. Then the 4 Artemis 2 astronauts.
Artemis 2 is there, and then was there a bunch of kids?
But they mentioned there was 10 astronauts in the room at one point.
Well, I don't remember now.
Man, I wish I looked this up again, because I remember they counted the astronauts in the room. I don't think, were they? No, I don't think they were. It would have been really funny. But at one point, somebody counted 10 astronauts, but left out Jared. And I thought that was really funny. And I thought he was going to... Oh, Inspiration 4 is also there. Yeah, so there was the 3 from the Polaris Dawn, 3 from Inspiration 4, 4 from Artemis 2. And they were like, wow, we got 10 astronauts in the room. And I was like, they didn't even include Jared in this. So, and no one corrected him. I would have like stopped my first remark and be like, actually, I'm also an astronaut. And so there's 11 in the room. So that was a bummer for him. But to me, nomination hearings are like dental work. Like, it's a thing to get through. You got to do it. Nobody likes it.
Yeah. And
there's never... I went back and watched parts of the Bridenstine and the Nelson confirmation hearings because I think it's easy at this point in time to think that this is like a really important moment. And it is to some extent, because it is with the absence of budget stuff that has now hit, but we didn't really have any... We had some rumors of what people thought about space policy or where they'd want to push. And it's more important that the people asking the questions, I think it's a better sense to get where they're coming from. We kind of know Jared's take on the thing, with a rare exception. You probably know the NASA head nominee's take on space policy. That's how they ended up being the head of NASA, or the nomination for it. But you don't know the things that Ted Cruz is pissed off about, or the things that they're looking to battle over. So that feels more useful to me. But otherwise, you go back and look at the other confirmation hearings, and it's very rarely connected to the things that we all got heated up and fought about for the following 2 to 4 years.
Yeah. No, and I kind of think of them as, I mean, I agree, like there wasn't going to be like a startling revelation of space policy at a it's not what I was going there to look for. But what I was kind of interested in, and I said this before too, is like I wanted to know the stuff outside of space, how deeply does that penetrate into the NASA specific part of the government, right? There's general, like, large scale political narratives happening right now. And it's like, you want to know, like, historically NASA stays like, there's a little bit of arm's length between NASA and like the rest of the political zeitgeist, right? And seeing how far or how close that gets in a hearing, I think is what you can kind of learn from it. And I think it got about as close as I expected it to. Like, there's no way we were going to get through that hearing without a mention of Elon Musk, and for good reason. I think there's important questions to ask about that kind of thing. But I think broadly, though, like, it went pretty under the radar. Like, there wasn't.
That's what I mean. Just get through it. It's fine. Whatever. Yeah. I think Jared was overly practiced in some instances, but in other cases, I think the practice that he has had for, 4 years now, of Inspiration 4, Polaris Dawn, appearances on TV, certain popular space podcasts. Like, he seemed like pretty comfortable talking about most of the stuff. And then the several answers that were weird were the ones that clearly somebody was telling him, if you tell them that Elon Musk is in the room, it's going to cause problems elsewhere. Yeah,
and exactly, yeah.
Do any of us know what that actual problem is, though? Like, I'm sure that would have Because like nobody's shocked that he knows Elon Musk. That wasn't the revelation, right? So was there some legal thing that if Elon Musk was in the room that causes issues, or?
No, so this was definitely the most interesting part, right? And where he refused to answer this question, and this is like both similar to what I said, right? It's like you want to know how much the bigger political narrative, which is like Elon Musk is eviscerating the government narrative, right? How much of that is going to penetrate into NASA, and the conflict of interest problem with Doge and all that kind of stuff. So like, whether he was in the room or not is irrelevant, but it maybe paints the greater picture, right? It's like, is this guy like how everyone's trying to measure Elon's influence right now. Everyone's trying to like have a quantitative
so what
value,
it's
like,
a shitload. Who cares? Like, I mean, you can care, but I'm saying like no one's like, wow, I would never have expected that. Nobody was shocked by that, right? No, on either side, no one's shocked.
But like we said, this is the public part of this, right? So you're trying to get it onto the record and get that soundbite so that later when you go and fight this battle, you can refer back and have these
protest
things, right?
the next thing that like.
Yeah. So
it was interesting that did we know for
why they
sure
weren't giving them the soundbite
before this? Was there? I can't remember if there was ever actual reporting on this that. One of the senators, I don't remember which one, referenced not only did you buy flights from SpaceX, but you have invested in them. Like, it was unclear if they meant like an investment or like what you people say when they say, I've invested in this car, when it's like, no, you've bought the car. Like, I don't know if they meant that or did they mean actual equity?
That was the part I was actually like most disappointed in, is that like, the one like concrete measure of like whether there is a conflict of interest or not is just like literally, do you own any part of SpaceX? Like no one asked him that. No one just said like, what is your percentage shareholder value in the company of SpaceX? Because if it isn't zero, we want to talk about it. And like even there was like that ethical document that came out after. It was like, well, I'm divesting this, and like some stuff around the shift for shareholder power, all that kind of stuff, which is great. Like, it was really good to see all that stuff. But it's like, I feel like we just have not heard a concrete answer there. And we know we wanted to, right? That was like the origin story for Inspiration 4. He wanted to invest. Right. And then at that time, there wasn't something available. So he bought the flight instead. But like,
he just said, I'll be the Lorenzo de Medici of this company.
Yeah. He obviously wanted to own SpaceX. Like, that's on the record.
Yeah. He wanted that in the portfolio.
And so like, okay, here we are like 6-7 years later or whatever it is. Like, did you accomplish that goal? And I don't know. No one seems to have answered that. And I think that's interesting. That feels like a good thing to have on the record. And I don't know. But I think more
at the same time, if there was good evidence, if anyone in the world had good evidence that existed, I feel like that would have been part of it. Yeah. That would have been a heavier line of questioning, right? It wouldn't have been.
Yeah, and maybe he doesn't.
Ed Markey saying, "Tell me he was in the room. Tell me he was in the room. Tell me in the room." He'd be like, "What is your percentage? What is your percentage? What is your percentage?" And the fact that it wasn't, I think, might be notable.
Yeah, maybe. So maybe
or
there's
they just truly
there
don't know.
No one found anything, and that's interesting. But I felt like my one comment on it after was that I felt like the senators who were going after him were so bloodthirsty for going after Elon that they forgot that there's actually a potential conflict of interest sitting right in front of you. Like, there's things to investigate right here with the actual nominee. You don't need to like burn him by association to the big bad guy, right? Like, I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe there's.
I don't know though, dude. Because if you look at his answers, I don't know. He said he doesn't think the SLS is the long-term solution, and I think that gets marketed around as like this was a revelation. But again, like, I don't think that's a take that's not existed before in the heads of NASA. I mean, if like the last vice president, 2 vice presidents ago, said if these contractors aren't good, we'll find new ones, and that was like the vice president saying, and who cared about space at the moment, right? And you had Bridenstine in Congress saying maybe we'll launch Orion elsewhere. So it's not like he's the first person to ever have floated maybe Artemis 4 doesn't happen in the way that it's envisioned. Yeah. So to that end, I don't know that there's anyone who's particularly unhappy with the things that he answered in that confirmation hearing. He's supportive of Artemis 2 and 3 flying, supportive of the ISS going as long as it can, thinks we can do all the things ever. So whether that was appeasing or not, there's nobody that's like, no one's coming away from that hearing like, this would be a true disaster for NASA if Jared Isaacman ran the thing.
Oh, yeah. No, like this has been the story with Isaacman the whole time. His qualifications are not the question. Jared Isaacson, the qualifications are not the issue, right? Like no one thinks that he can't do the job. Like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's good. He's capable. He knows how to run large organizations. He's well connected. Like this is a fine candidate to run NASA. I think the only outstanding issues for me were always just like how deep is he into how deep into bed is he with SpaceX, because that's a big deal for the the company that is increasingly winning every single contract that NASA puts out. That's a problem, right? So
see, but I am on the other side of that, which I'm like, it's not a problem, because that's like saying that he's in bed with big oxygen. Like, man, it's all around you and it's everywhere, and it is the thing that runs the industry right now. Like, the issue is not
this
that
is the best time to have a SpaceX insider in the candidacy.
You literally couldn't do more. If anything, I fault the industry itself for letting SpaceX be such an outlier, and that's maybe like I'm some shill for big Elon, but
I mean, I will say though, like even if you're right and that like the outcome, this is the thing with conflicts of interest, right? The outcome may be fine. That's never the issue with the conflict of interest. It's like there's that risk that it isn't. That's the problem, right? So if Jared Isaacman owns half of SpaceX and then legitimately never ever lets that influence a decision and there's no bad outcome, that's still a conflict of interest, right? The conflict isn't the outcome, it's the circumstance. So you have to be kind of careful with that. And so I think that maybe he's a great administrator and everything's fine and there isn't some unjust increase in the amount of SpaceX money flowing out of DC, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But still, we need to. I think it's important for you guys to set the precedent that there are lines that you can't cross, and things are okay and things are not okay, right? And that's why
I'm not trying to lobby for we should put the people who have conflict of interest in charge of everything, but I think I'm trying to prioritize the big issues at NASA at the moment, and I'm
and that's a fair point.
SpaceX being the GOAT is not one of them. It's not
if you step back and go, how can we make the American government better? It's not you're not going to zero in on the NASA.
Remove SpaceX.
This is where I should spend my time.
There's even just limiting it to space policy itself, right? There are many issues that you tackle first. So I mean, it is weird for this hearing to happen, and then was it the next day or 2 days later that the budget, the proposed budget or the budget passback or all this, everyone acts like they know these terms, came out, which was apocalyptic for the science end.
Absolutely.
What's the rundown on this?
I mean, this is that forest fire approach like I talked about before, right? It's just literally burn down every major program and then see who's going to fight for what and what comes back, right? So Nancy Grace Roman, out the window. Mars sample return, out the window. A bunch of other it's
Da Vinci, I think, right?
Yeah, Da Vinci. It was a 50% cut over. It was like a $3 or $4 billion drop in the science mission directorate budget, which is unheard of. I don't know if we've ever seen a cut that drastic before. Sets you back to the 1980s in terms of money available. And if you remember, well, you don't remember, neither do I, but anyone who studied history of planetary science, the 80s was not a good time. That's the dark ages of planetary science. It was great in the 60s and 70s, and it was great mid 90s and onward, but 80s, not a good time. Shuttle was down. That was the only flight that we were allowed to use. And so a bunch of missions were just kind of sitting around. And everyone was basically going when's the next Voyager flyby? Because we're bored. It's when are they going to find a new planet with Voyager? Because it's just 40 years between results. It was brutal. So yeah, it was not a good time. So it's not a budget to aspire to if you're interested in planetary science. And that's not even to say anything about, astronomy and stuff. So.
Yeah. And then for the thing that I highlighted at the beginning, of is there anything interesting to talk about here? Every time the administration changes, there are the same, at least the last 3 or 4 change of hands that have happened at NASA. The Republicans cut, well, it was Discover until that started flying. Then it was the STEM grants and the Office of Education and Earth Science gets cut back, and then the Democrats win, and they cut the other stuff. I actually find this really interesting because And we're seeing it now where the Planetary Science Caucus is coming out with like statements, bipartisan statements that they're going to fight this proposed budget cut to NASA science.
This is the first Republican to speak out against it, right? This
Exactly.
Nebraska guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So Don Bacon, an excellent name.
Great name.
Nebraska too. Huge space industry in Nebraska. Really
Whenever I hear Don now,
parochial.
I think about like the Spanish word, like Don Bacon, like it's like for bacon. El patron Don Bacon,
So good. That's really good.
Yeah.
But this amount of a budget cut is going to be fought back on because it touches enough stuff in a dramatic way that even if they come out of the woodwork parochially because it cut the thing in their district or their NASA center or whatever, it's the first time that the party lines don't match up to the lines of what and where is being cut.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is the first, but it's not going to be the last person who says, hey man, that's a lot. That's a big cut to a thing that is useful to my people. And so the more that is drawn out, you would see different battle lines drawn than you would expect for 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've said this all the way through this administration so far, but there's this the big narrative of executive power, right? Is that right now the executive branch is like really flexing, and no one's really pushing back too much, and so they're just kind of doing whatever they want, like they're stomping all over both the other branches of the government right now. But it's not going to last forever, and I think that we have to remember that like we're 100 days into this administration. And that budget's not due till October. It's a freaking lifetime. That's
a brutal amount of time.
Yeah, the earliest it's due is October. Like traditionally, they'll pass it in January or whatever, and roll in some CRs for a month. They'll continue passing that Biden budget for another year and a half or so, just because they love it so much
until the midterms.
So I mean, there's plenty. It doesn't make political sense to fight the administration this early. You got to let the battle lines get drawn and let them punch themselves out a little bit, and then you pick your battles and you go after them closer to the deadline, right? So I think this is the first Republican that's going to speak out. Won't be the last. And so obviously, yes, this budget as requested will not be the one that passes in any way, shape, or form, but it's still scary, man. It's still like, even if it doesn't pass this way, it's a signal of like what this administration cares about, and whether Jared Isaacman is a great guy or not, that those priorities are going to flow down in some way or another, right? Like he's going to have to, even if Isaacman wants to protect the stuff, he has to pick his own battles, right? And so it's not a good statement of intent. It's a little scary from that perspective.
Is there anything to, so the 80s, obviously you said was pretty dark for planetary science. And that's interesting in that I feel like with these missions that can have long lead times, you could find yourself in these kind of like gullies of schedule where you worked on a bunch of stuff, it flew or it's still flying. The stuff you're working on next takes a really long time. I think about actually Starship, the time between the suborbital flights and the orbital flights, like that gully there's not a lot to work on right now because the things we are working on take a really long time to get to. Is there anything about the missions that NASA has in front of it right now that they're flying to really far away planets, which means long transit times, but also they're really technically complex, which means long development times. And then there's the Mars sample return thing, which is delayed because because of all the programmatic stuff that we talked about for the years. But did this era, was this always going to be an awkward era and is now compounded by a crazy budgetary situation? Or do you actually think that the budgetary situation can be totally excised from that?
I mean, it's a little of both, right? Like, it was never the
plan. For instance, I should put a finer point on it. You were telling me, man, there's this big gap in the next Mars mission up, right? You were talking about that years ago.
Mars, yes.
Right, but those were our flagships for so long. So
they were our flagships, but they were also our other flights too, right?
But what was the flagship that would have been here that isn't here right now?
What is the flagship that would have been here? Well, I mean, you have Europa Clipper right now, so that one is there. That's the freshest one, right? And then Mars sample return was supposed to be. That's
the next one up, right? So that's what I mean is that we've kind of gotten into this gully that was going to be terrible anyway. this is not going to make that better, but I don't know what I
Well,
should have expected for this next 4 to 8 years.
But that's thinking only in terms of flagship missions, right? And so that was never the plan in terms of the overall science portfolio. There were supposed to be like
Simplex
the
missions.
No, not a simplex. The cadence for New Frontiers and Discovery is supposed to be like twice as high as it is now. Every time we have a decadal survey,
on. Tell me it's Dragonfly's fault. Go ahead.
It's not Dragonfly's fault. It's like it's funding issue, right? Like it's compound. NASA takes all these missions and we've talked about this lots. They take these tiny Discovery missions, they blow them up to flagship size, and they take twice as long, 3 times as long. So they're taking longer and longer with the missions they get. And then Congress is also not funding the cadence that has always been recommended and planned for, right? So like Discovery is supposed to fly every like 2 years or something. Like it's supposed to be some like real hot cadence of like InSight style missions coming out, and it's like wow, not hitting anywhere near that, right? So these missions are not filling out the space between the flagships, and if they were, we wouldn't notice a big gap in the flagships as our planet.
But if they were, wouldn't that be a harder target? I think is where I'm inching myself towards as a take of like, seems like an easy target if there's not a lot of like, because what's everyone coming out to bat for? Hey, don't defund my Mars sample return mission that we have all just spent months talking about how totally effed it is. Hey, don't defund my Goddard Space Flight Center that flies a series of space telescopes and the next one's up in however many years, right? Like, they're kind of easy punching bag targets.
I mean, kind of. I mean, sure, politically, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's right.
No, I don't think so. That's not my point. My point is that, like, in politics, easy targets are going to get punched.
Yes, they will get punched. I mean, I think what I would say about that is that if you want to think about this politically and not, objectively, I know those are like two different things. Yep. But if you want to think about it politically, like this is the fact is that you have these large programs that are there's consensus around them, right? If this is political and it's democracy and it's public support, there is tremendous public support around Mars sample return and Nancy Grace Roman, right? Mm-hmm. MSR badly implemented should be fixed, but the question of whether to do it or not is not in question, right? And then you look back to the budgets that have been passed in the last 4 or 5 years, which, by the way, are numbers decided by the voters through their congressional representation, right? So that the $7 billion that the science budget got last year was, in theory, selected by the American people. They chose to have that budget through the representation, right? So, like, do you really think that over the last year, the Americans are like, you know what? Actually, we were way off, 50% off. Like we've been doing it this way for 10 years. Actually, we just realized that's not what we wanted in any way. Like people don't change their mind that dramatically, right? And so
nor does that lead to good change if you change your mind that dramatically in an instant. Right? Yeah.
If the budgets are representative of the sentiment of the taxpayers and the voters, then it'll probably be a smoother, up and down as sentiment goes. It's not going to be a dramatic cut like this. And so I think being upset over the suggestion of 50% is pretty reasonable. Like is not. Yes, you had a great mandate as the executive branch, but like you don't write the budget. This is not what people actually want. So step off is basically what the idea is here.
Yeah, I think I feel similar the first time we talked about all these potentials of Doge back in the day. We talked with Berger, I think minutes after the election. It felt like I am the most susceptible of anyone that's been on this show to criticisms of federal government spending and local government spending that like shit's out of whack. But I also am interested in the long term. And if you're trying to make progress in that area, the forest fire approach might expose interesting things to learn, but I don't feel like it actually builds any momentum towards the thing that you care about. It creates a harder kickback to it. Yeah, and then also in this case with specifically to science missions, but space science missions, and because of the timelines involved, like a huge sudden change is it sets you back farther than the timeline adjustments are because of the compounding nature of schedule the follow-ons that have to happen and the way that all these are coordinated across,
it does
multiple
significant
divisions.
damage.
More so than just like the acute moment that it's mentioned. It's delayed this many years. We're going to take our foot off the gas. It's like, well, it's going to set you back double or triple that because of how it all compounds down the line. So that is and even like not even just on the NASA side, on the NOAA side too, the GOES satellites are being targeted under the same vein, and also weirdly deconstructed, where they're trying to disentangle NASA and NOAA, who collaborate on that program. I'm not just saying this because I make a really cool free Mac app that uses the GOES imagery. I think like you show anyone in the country or the world those satellites, I don't know a lot of people to be like, I hate those satellites. Those are the worst ones. Like they're kind of amazing. They take awesome pictures of the Earth. They are the weather forecasting units that we use that drive a huge amount of data. And
as someone who lives in a hurricane zone, literally depend on NOAA for my life. Yes.
It's like truly a nearly inarguable good to have those satellites up in geostationary orbit. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that. The NASA NOAA thing that they're trying to do there, where they're taking NASA they're trying to have NASA not build the satellites or manage the satellite side of that program, because that's the agreement there is that NASA builds and kind of they manage the satellite and the launch side. NOAA operates them and collects the weather data. That's where that partnership sort of breaks down, I think, roughly. But they're trying to say no, it's just a NOAA program now, and it's like. Great. We have to stand up a whole nother department that does the exact same thing at NASA. Like, this is not efficient. Yeah. They already do it. You know?
You can go back and forth on that, right? Because it's just like, if NOAA just needs this service, then like, if they can get that from, I don't know, the private market or something, then by all means, like, go for it, right? Like, do you, like, is NASA, like, is there a mandate literally just like, oh, if it has to do with space, it's a step out of our domain? Like, like we've talked about this before. There's no other department in the government that like owns like a physical location. Like, oh no, this is on the land. It's from you have to go through the Secretary of Land because this is happening.
Are you sure there's no other department that might be named the Navy?
But I mean, it's specific.
I guess you could argue the Coast Guard exists or something.
That's specifically about the military, though, right? Like
no, you're right.
You can sail a ship without talking about the Navy, right?
Yeah. The Navy doesn't build your merchant marine vessels.
These oil tankers, gotta go through the Navy. Like, like no one does that. So it's kind of weird in a sense. Like NASA, it's a special status because space is so weird. But so you can have that argument. But you're totally right on the same side. It's like if there is duplicated work, then why wouldn't you want to share the load, right? But yeah.
What do you think is going to happen though? You think what's the sacrificial lamb, right? Because something's going to get cut.
I mean, if I have to pick, like if you need to knock off a big thing, I hate saying it, but man, but like Mars sample return is the one that's earned a cut the most, right? Like it's the one that needs to be slapped a little bit. So
you're putting them in timeout.
If you absolutely have to cut something, that I like, don't touch Nancy Grace Roman. That thing's like, it's doing great. They're like ahead of schedule, under budget. Fantastic program. Perfect. That's how they should all be run. But yeah, I mean, and closing Goddard is, I don't know, man. That's one where that's a complicated question. Closing any center is a complicated question. And I don't think I have an actual answer for that. Like, I don't know. They all do so much stuff. Was that explicitly
stated or just read into based on what was being cut?
I thought it was specified.
Was it? Okay. I don't know.
I don't remember. But yeah. I don't
know. Okay, but what NASA center, if you had to cancel one, which one would it be, Jake?
If I had to cancel
You're already making enemies out there saying
you know which center I have a beef with, so
what is it? Oh, Johnson Space Center.
Johnson.
Big Johnson.
Big Johnson. So
oh man, that's really funny. You're shutting it down just because of the conspiracy.
For all their shenanigans, their conspiracy shenanigans.
Yeah.
But no, and here's the other thing, right? So okay, let's say you do decide that NASA needs a haircut, like bad. They need this real bad haircut.
This is like from a mullet to a buzz cut, though.
Yeah, but like let's assume that that's fact and true, and everyone agrees on that. Like NASA needs a haircut. So you put the whole NASA portfolio in front of your desk there, and you're looking at all the different pieces of it, and you're like, yeah, definitely Nancy Grace Roman. That's the part that's the most wasteful. And like, are you kidding me? Like, you could cut all the nonsense out of the exploration department, all this EUS and Bechtel garbage, and buy an extra Nancy Grace Roman telescope and still save a couple B's on the side. Like it's unbelievable. So
play 4D chess with me, Jake. if you were going to try to do that, where would you start by doing that, or would you start here and then do the other one?
I love that conspiracy. Yeah,
let's do it. Let's. I never buy into this administration's in 4D chess.
We'll put Nancy Grace Roman back on the schedule, but we'll have to take take US.
Let's for 5 minutes, Jake, pretend that the idea was to unveil all the tariffs and then roll them back, and then unveil them and unroll them back again in an excellent economic, brilliant move. Right? Let's play into that. Yeah. So this on the space side is roll out a cancellation of NASA science so that you get all the Democrats to fight back against it and a couple of Republicans, and have you built enough of a consensus to say, all right, cancel SLS and Gateway, and you get back all your science and then some.
I mean, if that's the play, man, well done. Like, just love it. I'm into that.
It's the one type of cancellation they haven't tried yet, of like, have all the scientists get their knives out and come at SLS.
Yeah. They would, though. Let's be honest.
I mean, listen. They never were loving the program anyway, so they just weren't mad enough. Yeah.
They got an offer for a free ride on it, and they were like, no thanks.
That's a great point. Yeah.
No, actually, we'll spend $250 million on Falcon Heavy, thanks.
Listen, all I'm saying is Jared was like, we got to fly Artemis 2 and 3, but, then we're bouncing.
That's the only reasonable way out of it, honestly. We've talked about that, right? Like, we still have a chance to draw the line at EUS and Block 2 or whatever it's called, and the new tower and all that garbage. Right. So, yeah.
It's very obviously the line.
It's very obviously the line. And Gateway lines up with that. Like, there's everything lines up.
That's what I mean. It's right there. You can snip it right off and everything's fine. Yeah.
Stepping over that line commits you to so much more time and money. Like, it's such a clear,
so much, like tens of billions. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And 10 years at least. So,
I mean, if it plays out that way, it'll be really interesting.
It will be interesting. Yeah. And I will happily give credit to the admin for doing that.
That's the first time I would buy 4D chess. Like, that would be truly remarkable. I don't buy it at all. I think they just were like, these seem like programs I've never heard of. Those people probably won't get too mad. There's probably not that many people that like it.
Well, and like this is, I have no evidence for this, and it's like totally like a populist play, but
without evidence, I love it.
Yeah. So the Office of Management and Budget guy for this admin is like, he's one of those anti-woke crusaders. Like, I think in some of the budget documents, he's like, we're removing the DEI program because it's evil and destroys lives. Like, it really like really like satanic language.
He talks in Dan Carlin quote voice the whole time.
This is the most egregious violation of human rights that it could ever have. Like, he speaks about it like that. And so, like, I'm not convinced that there isn't one point where he was going through all the projects going, this one's named after a woman.
I don't hate the theory. Yeah. Yeah. There's a research paper in there. Yeah. Is that why James Webb was never canceled?
Yeah. Exactly.
What'd you make of Isaacson calling out Webb so much in his confirmation hearing?
Yeah, there were a couple, if you want to go back to it, there was a couple like rehearsed language that made a lot of appearances. There's that, and there was Stars and Stripes on Mars kept coming up, right? But yeah, the web callback was super interesting. I don't really know.
It was like 2 or 3 times, and no other administrator got name dropped.
Trying to latch on to. Is it the sort of like American exceptionalism of the Apollo era that they were trying to like hook themselves into? That's the best I can come up with. Is like that was a time when America was like, we are the best and we're going to prove it by doing America.
Well, Jake, we're always that. Okay, first of all, step off that one, right?
But in space, that was like a very specific time. Like it literally like
and the dude's got a really nice space telescope now, Jake. There's a good branding. It's a good branding moment as opposed to 10 years ago, which was a bad branding moment for James Webb.
It changed overnight, but
you got a glow up after the after JWST launched.
Yeah, he definitely glowed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I that's the best I can come up with, because there's been some like there's some of that same language has appeared in other things. Like the whole like what's the frontierism and the I forget the term, like the self. No, that's not it. What's the term? Manifest Destiny, that's the one. Yeah, the like pretty sketchy and totally on brand for this admin like viewpoint of just like we are Americans and therefore everything belongs to us. Like it's that kind of like viewpoint. And Apollo was kind of like that, right? And so I wonder if they're trying to like hook into that. So that's my best guess.
It could have just been that Ted Cruz and one other senator referenced it in their meeting, and then he was like, "I guess I'll reference James Webb a couple times."
Yeah. I don't know.
I just thought it was interesting that.
It was interesting.
I mean, what other administrator would he call back to, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Is he just the most well-known administrator? Is that all it is? Like,
yeah,
is he trying to elevate himself? Be like, I'm on this level with Webb, or maybe I don't know. It's an interesting play. You're right. What name the other administrators?
Yeah, he wasn't like, oh, Golden really did a, when he's had this epic quote that no one remembers,
I don't think Administrator Truly would have handled it that way.
Yeah, it's like there's no other moments you would reference in the way of
mm-hmm.
The one time when they made the deal to save the space shuttle was not like a moment you'd reference.
Yeah, and you can't say Nelson because that's
when President Clinton wanted to cancel the ISS. Like,
you can't say Bridenstine because he's on the outs with that admin.
And too recent to like quote in an epic way.
Too recent, yeah. You can't say Golden. You can't say
Bolden. No, nothing really.
No.
Does the NASA administrator matter? We're back, Jake. We are so back. We are so back.
Yeah. Yikes.
So he's not going to get confirmed until May sometime, sounds like.
Okay.
I don't really know where the budget situation goes in the next month, but presumably he'll be around before any of this gets truly down the line. So I feel like we'll know pretty quick on what the take's going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Who do they go for bat? Who do they go to bat for first? It's not going to be Mars Sampler turn, or is it? Because it's so big and beefy, and they
maybe
think rocket.
It's the one that you can do executive stuff on the easiest too, right? Like
why is that?
Like because nothing is like formalized. Like Congress is like, you got to spend a little bit of money on it, but everything else is like totally open. Like NASA can decide things and they can make decisions and change things pretty easily. Like it's still within their purview, right? Whereas like SLS, not
there's
you can't just be like
written into the
it's
law.
canceled. Like you can't. Yeah, there's no like MSR shall use the European return order. Like that's not in there, right? So that could be it. Yeah. But it'll be interesting. This is actually the thing I like most about Isaacman's answers is that like a bunch of times he was like, man, you're like, I don't get to look at this stuff. Like I got to get in there, my hands dirty and read and learn and figure out what's going on before I can make these calls. Right. Like I'm committed to like gathering the evidence and making a sound decision. Like that was like, yes, obviously that's all you can really say in the confirmation hearing, but it was nice to kind of hear him say it out loud and say that, which is also a politically like convenient way to dodge a question, but
got to get through it, man. Got to get through those nomination hearings.
So, yeah. What did you think of the we should do both answer? That was interesting to me. Like it was kind of funny. And because it was funny because Congress is like, really? Like, are you saying this on record? You think we should do both? Do you really think that? Say yes. Like it was like trying to corner him. You're like, yeah, of course. I'm the NASA administrator. Like, if you come to me, you write the damn budget, Congress. You come to me and say, here's $umpteen billion. Like, go to Moon and Mars. I'll do it. Of course I will.
Yeah,
like,
right.
What the hell kind of answer do you expect me to give on this? Like, yeah, we can do both. You just tell me how much money I have, and I'll tell you what we can do. Like, that's it.
And also, the mask was off for a minute, which was like, Congress did not believe NASA could do any of this, even if given unlimited budget. Like, that was kind of shitty feeling, Like
that was not great. Yeah.
So even you don't think this is enough money to do any of these things? That's not great.
Yeah. So I thought that was funny. I love that. That was my favorite.
I get his point. I do get his point. It does feel a little bit like what I criticized the Nelson administration for, which was you have moments in which you have political capital behind you and you can take a shot to get more budget for a thing that would be useful, and there's a political moment to take advantage of. And his answer was like, I mean, NASA could be more efficient with all their money and do better things, right? It's like you could do that also internally, but you probably should tell Congress that you need more money to be a good steward of NASA, right? Like,
if you're a NASA mission, you should always tell Congress you need more money. Period.
Yeah, which is
there's
again to
never
refer. No, but to refer to me being the one that's most skeptical of government funding that's ever appeared on the show, like that's how we ended up with all the money being spent by everybody. Said there's a natural circle of life element to like nobody. I think Casey, when he was on the show, talked not Dreyer, right? Casey Hammer was talking about there's no real incentive structure to be cost efficient, right? You could be Nancy Grace Roman and be like really good and under budget and ahead of schedule, and you're the one getting canceled.
You're still gonna get canceled.
Veritas and be in the same situation, right? So there's no really strongly profound motivating element to tell Congress that the budget you had last year was more than enough. Because guess what's going to happen next year? You're going to have less budget, and that's I don't know how to balance. I'm not a smart enough thinker to understand like how do you achieve that. Unless you go straight up to like a zero-based budget approach and say, list all the things that you need to do, or you give me the list of things we need to do. I'll tell you how much it costs. You tell me if you've got the money. If not, I'll strike out a couple of these other things that we're doing until we're both happy, right? Like just straight up negotiating a contract like we do when we're freelancing, web and iOS work. But I don't know. Jared should tell them that they need more money to do both. But he also should internally say we could do both with the money we have, because the whole point of this era of spaceflight is that we could do more with less money because of reusability and efficiencies, and we're smarter now and all these things. And yet everybody always says if you don't have as much money as Apollo had, you're never going to get to the moon. And I take issue with this. I'm like, no, that's not the point. The point was we could do it for less. We all say that, but nobody actually thinks that, even Congress.
Yeah, I mean, my take on this is, I've said this before, is that we need more will to cancel shit. I think that's the big issue with me, is that like you get a program approved and you get a budget of X dollars, and you allow a little bit of leeway with that for different circumstances, right? Like maybe you give them like whatever 10% margin for unforeseen stuff, because every project has unforeseen stuff. And then over a certain amount, you trigger reviews, and over another certain amount, like you just get canceled. And like, you just have to have that. We need to be not afraid of the sunk cost fallacy of those. Like we need to be ready to go to a program that has spent $1 billion and they're not going to come anywhere close, and be like, you're done, move on. Because here's the thing, give me the list of stuff you want to do. That list will forever always be bigger than the amount of money you can get. Like there will never ever be a shortage of cool things for NASA to do. And so like that's
just true of life, not just NASA, right? Like human ambition outstrips everything that you have.
You're here on Off-Nominal today. We discovered the concept of scarcity, like economics 101. But so like the incentive to save money can't be about saving money. It should be about doing more things, right? So like, your incentive to like standard budget is so that you get to fly your mission, because I'm going to cancel you if you don't. The next guy in line is ready to go and he's going to hit budget. Like that's got to be what it is, right? So you don't do less. You don't save money and do less. You do more things for the same amount of money. That's the objective you have to try and get to. That's my take. Cancel shit when it goes wrong.
We just need Dr.
I just recommended canceling Mars sample return.
I know you did, man. You're out here.
I feel about that.
You're out here laying it on the table. I love it. I mean, you're Steve Jobs killing the iPod right now, right? Like the one thing that, it's great. I love that. We need Dr. Z back up in this. We got to just get him back on the show and be like, what the hell's going on, man? Yeah, hit him up. Yeah. Let's email him right now in the middle of the show. Like, what is happening?
Yeah. He's probably got some takes, right?
He would be excellent to dig through, like, all right, here's what you should do strategically. So hopefully Jared gives him a call. We should email connect them. You guys should talk as if we're the ones that would introduce them.
I love it. Hey, I wanted to introduce you to someone. His name is...
It'd be great if you two chatted. I think you'd get along.
I think you guys got some similar views.
That'd be a really funny bit to do.
You work in the same industry, so you're probably,
That would be an incredibly funny bit that no one would read except us. Like introduce Tim Cook and Sundar Pichai or something. Get their publicly available emails and Tim at Apple. You should really meet.
I love it. Bit. That's great.
That's a joke for one kind of bit, right? You're the only people that enjoy that are the people you CC or BCC on that email.
Yeah.
But he did have when he was on this show talking about the decision behind canceling a program and when it's the right decision and when it's not is tricky because, your point is true that more cancellation, like enforcement of the budget caps would be a good start.
Yep.
And yet enforcement of the budget caps is a politically not tasty thing for politicians to be like, you spent how many, I know I say this, you spent how many billions of dollars and nothing happened. And yet we have that test stand at Stennis or whatever that was like built for the canceled Constellation program. Cause apparently it cost more to preserve it than to finish it or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like if you talk in the scope of planetary science, it's like a little clearer, right? Like if you're like looking at just these missions, because like they have cost caps and they're all kind of managed by the same group of people and they have similar culture and how they manage expenses. Like it's a nice tight window to like explore an idea like that. Then you expand it out to the agency level, like at NASA, and you're like, okay, the way they spend money on that side of the agency and the way they spend money on this side, just different games. Like the way it's done is just entirely different. You cannot go into the cost plus Bechtel tower contract that just bleeds money, just like literally just shovels money into the goddamn Indian River. Like you can't you can't look at that program and be like, actually your cost cap on this class 2 human spaceflight mission was only 1.2 billion, and so you're canceled. Like it's like, no, that's not how that works. Like
Yeah, you're right. It just doesn't. Yeah, it's different, completely different departments.
Yeah.
Almost makes you think you should be different agencies.
Hey, just because it's happening in space doesn't mean it's NASA.
That's a fun one. We should do a whole show on what we would deconstruct NASA into.
Where does the U.S. government do the rest of the science that doesn't happen in space?
Pregnant pause. Snarky joke.
Pause, yeah. I don't know if I'm advocating for that, but it's an idea to think about.
Well, what would you, with 2 minutes left in our actual show content today, what would you deconstruct NASA into?
Yeah, I don't know.
Would you I don't think I would do the directorates cleanly.
Here's the thing, like in the long run, like the long view of time, like it does make sense for NASA to go away, and for like as space grows, NASA will go away, and these things will grow into their own and become part of the larger ideas that we're doing, right? Things that we do in space for military, things that we do for science, things that we do for commerce, things that we do for transportation. Those are all separate. Yeah. Secretariats in every government now, and so as those grow, they will eventually happen. So the question is not if, it's when, right? And
right.
That might be the more interesting question. It's just like,
shit, are we at when?
Is there a department that's ready to be split off from NASA? Is it big enough yet to like earn its own place? I don't know yet. Maybe.
I mean, arguably, you could take all the Earth science and put it to NOAA.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're kind of already are a department that would be ready to handle that in terms of like its charter.
Yeah.
You'd have to add what's oceanographic and atmospheric. You'd have to add like land. I don't know what word you'd use. Right now they're only the oceans and the air, so they need to be able to do the grass and the dirt.
Yeah, grass and the dirt people got to join the.
But then I think the humans need to be their own thing, right? Like an agency chartering, figure out how to live for extended periods of time in space, both in orbit and on planetary surfaces would be its charter. Like specifically expand human presence.
Yeah, that one. There's an interesting take there about like whether that should just be the military. Like,
hey, I was the guy saying that we should have the military astronauts. So,
I mean, they all are anyway. Like, it's not even that like big of a leap. Like, every astronaut's also in the Marines or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. Like,
good point.
They wouldn't even have to file any paperwork to move that over. Like, yeah, I'm already signed up, man. I'm a colonel. Like, it's fine.
But then would there would just be like a planetary science department?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question, right?
So like department?
The government also funds,
makes sense.
geology and medical science and chemistry and nuclears, like all that stuff is also being. So where is that all happening, right? Like,
I think maybe the part the piece that you should start this question with is like, are there actual efficiencies with having them under the same department?
Yes. That's 100%. That's like the only question, basically, right? Like keeping it
what
this
do you
way.
actually benefit from that? Because I think they just
is it
fight
just
mostly.
inertia? Is it just inertia, or are there actual benefits from, how often does the planetary science side call up the human exploration side and be like, hey, I want to run something by you. Let's put our heads together on this one. Like,
yep.
I don't think that much.
My sense is never. I've talked to more people within NASA that have talked shit about the other sides than have actually told me about working with them. So
yeah, if you want to answer that question, go ask the Orion team how much room there is for rocks to come back from the moon.
So good.
There is no planetary scientist that is happy with that answer. Let me tell you that much.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How much room is there for rocks? First question: where do the rocks go? What rocks?
If you guys,
I could just hold one. Is that enough?
If you guys if you go easy on the number 2s, we can squeeze it into the side of the wastebasket here. Yeah. So maybe just like plan your food
enough rocks?
appropriately.
Yeah.
How much do you need? Like one rock's fine, right?
Yeah, I mean they're all the same once you're up there, right? Is there any differences amongst these? You're the one trying to cancel a sample return. Listen, only one of us on this show said cancel the sample return. So.
This has been a spicy episode. We had fun today. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times with these episodes, what people don't understand about our relationship, Jake, is that over the course of this episode, we've probably tried on 5 to 6 takes that we're not even sure we think, but we're just like seeing how it works, I don't think some of the emails we get sometimes people think that all of our takes are our takes, when sometimes we just like realize that we have to be the other guy for a minute and we try the other one on.
That's called learning. Yeah.
I love it. Like, that's how we are. And it's why I love our conversation.
Someone's going to email me and tell me that I'm bad for not supporting Isaacman. That's what we're going to get next.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Oh, and I'm a shill. I'm a total shill for all Elon Musk things.
Elon shill.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally. But we both want to cancel the gateway. So the two people that I desperately owe an email response to, because I got a very long email about the gateway. I apologize, and I guess we'll talk again. Hit me up.
Look, you can keep gateway as long as Dragon XL they admit that it's not real. That's all I'm here for. Yeah.
Dude, I think we could get an answer on this question. We're about to enter our apex of influence and access at NASA if Jared gets confirmed. We're getting the media accreditation policy changed. We are getting podcasts specifically included in the media accreditation policy. I'm just laying out all our plans for.
We're getting rid of ITAR. Yeah.
Yeah, we're canceling ITAR. No more handlers at KSC for foreign nats from Canada.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Specifically, we're going to do a carve out, tariff-like carve out for Canadians at KSC.
Of a big board. It says all the countries and whether you get a chaperone.
How many handlers you get.
Oh,
so
man.
good.
Yeah.
So good.
This episode is over.
Yeah, we're done. What are we doing next week, Jake? We got a funny one next week, I think.
Next week. Let me pull up schedule and double check before I say
VIP.
something wrong.
Right.
Space
Roman
VIP.
is joining us.
We're going to talk about space tourism and Katy Perry probably.
Yeah, probably how she booked her flight to space.
Yeah. How did she get in on that? Yeah. Did they go through Space VIP? So Space VIP is the company that did Axiom mission, right? They did the first Axiom mission. I think it was the brokers for that. So, yeah, we're going to talk to Roman about that. Learn some stuff about going to space as a tourist.
Try to get us a flight booked.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Gratis.
Yeah, I have a lot of money left after buying this house.
A promotional tour. Yeah. It's marketing budget.
All right, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.